You talk about micro proofs and kind of building a sort of portfolio of experiences
Mhm.
where you can refer to so that you know that you can do a certain thing, that you can achieve a certain goal because you've done it before. You are
Yes.
reliable. You can bank on yourself. Tell us about microproof because I really find that concept interesting.
Yeah, I think the process of building confidence is really like solidified in giving yourself evidence that you are who you say you are. Why do we have certain beliefs about things? Our beliefs really are shaped by our past experiences. And many times those past experiences are negative, so it shapes beliefs that are in alignment with that. So, for example, public speaking, which, 75% of the world population has glossophobia, which is the fear of speaking in front of groups. Why? For the most part, they have had an experience in front of a group that was scary, that went a certain way, that they had a physiological reaction because we're terrified of being judged. So the next time they go to do that thing, they're actually approaching that with the memory of what happened in the past. The thing is, if you have enough good experiences, the good proof, it gives you evidence to say, I think this is going to go well. If, for example, if you give 100 presentations and 95 go well, you're like, on a presentation 101, you're kind of like, yeah, I think this is going to go well
Yeah,
because
you're at cruising altitude at that point. So,
you have enough evidence. And I
yeah.
think people don't give themselves enough evidence to reinforce who they are. That's why I think 30-day challengers are so ineffective because 30 days of proof is not nearly enough. Do people say it's like it takes 21 days to build a habit? That is actually not true. That has been debunked. There's been studies that have gone up to even 144 days. So I think the 30-day challenge, people do it and they think they're going to be a new person. It's like you need to give yourself way more. It's a good start, but you need to give yourself way more evidence to say that I'm going to show up
Hmm.
every single day committing to this thing so that over time you can then look back and say, wow, yeah, I think I am. I think I am that. If you're kind to everyone almost every day for years on end, you're going to start to kind of believe that you're a kind person because you have enough proof.
Yeah. And it becomes part of
So,
your identity, right? And
yes,
you talk about how
yes.
you should make confidence part of your identity as opposed to something that you feel occasionally. And I think that is very powerful.
Yeah, I think identity is one of the most transformative things that we have access to tap into. There's, I talk about this idea of crossing the identity threshold, where when does something that you do become a part of who you are? Like early on, I remember I was always this overweight kid, and it was always like 20 or 30 pounds. But then it got to a point where I turned to food in amidst challenges and to hide, and I developed binge eating disorder, and which is basically like eating until you're full and then eating after you're full because it just didn't fill the void. And I got to a place where I was 75 pounds overweight, obese, and then I felt like there was no way out of this. And I realized, and I was like, there reached a point where I was like, enough is enough. Something needs to change. And I decided, I was like, I'm going to reclaim this. I'm going to do something about this. And I lost, basically, long and the short, I lost the weight, lost the 75 pounds. And for about a year, I still felt like the overweight kid. I know it's hard to like, and even though I was in a healthy body fat percentage, like it's hard to understand for someone that hasn't been there, but
I have. I can relate.
I literally felt
Yeah,
overweight still. I
I
literally
understand.
felt like I
Hmm.
still had that because it felt like just something I was doing, not someone that I was, someone that I became. And I think over time and identity to change how you see yourself now, if I told my friends that I was like, yeah, I'm not going to work out, I just am not feeling it today, they would be like, what have you done? This is an AI. You've kidnapped our friend. What is going on? Like, because it's now a part of who I am, which what happens is when it starts to become a part of your identity, other
Yeah.
people reinforce that.
So I'm a
Oh, of
fit,
course.
healthy person who respects my body. and will do whatever it takes to, feel my best and look my best.
A
But
hundred percent.
that was your new identity.
Yes. And I think parts of that can still come back. One of my favorite movie franchises is Marvel. And in one of the movies, in Doctor Strange, the Ancient One has one of my favorite quotes, is that we never get rid of our demons, we just learn to live above them. And I think a lot of people have challenges and trauma and things that were from years ago that kind of still walk with them to this day. But I don't think that's something to say, like, that's not who I am anymore. Like, I still feel that overweight, that like kid who would eat until he was overfull. But I'm in the driver's seat now, and this new version of me is the one that is here. I've learned to live above that. I've learned to live beyond that. And I think there's something to be said of, like, I talk about this idea that you'll never outperform your self-image. And that change really starts by changing the way you see yourself. And that the psychology of personalities talks about this, where we have different sort of personalities or personas in different contexts, with your intimate relationship versus your friends versus work versus with yourself. You're kind of different people. Like, you bring a different person to that field of play. So if we can decide, like, who do I want that person to be, not what do I want that person to do, not like I want to be more consistent, like I am, like you said, I am a consistent person. I'm a healthy person. So what does a healthy person do? I'm a successful person. So what does a successful person do? I'm an organized person. So what does an organized person do? So rooting it in identity versus activity is, I find, far more powerful, and it gives you far more longevity in what you're trying to do.
But confidence is not always all encompassing, right? Someone can be confident in their career, but they can have really low confidence in their personal life. And I'm sure you've seen that contrast a lot in the work that you do. So, how do we integrate ourselves and make sure that we can be confident in all contexts, all situations?
Great question. And it is so true. And I see it all the time. We have different levels of self-esteem or self-efficacy, which are sort of different. Self-esteem is the way you see yourself. Self-efficacy is the belief in your ability to do something. So it's your skill sets, your talent. Esteem is your sort of self-image. So I've run into a lot of people that have a level 10 in their career, but a level 2 in relationships, or vice versa, or a level 10 in their career, level 2 in health. And the way to do that and to really balance the scales, because we got to see, let's get all of our fields of play up and improving and growing. And I think one of the most effective ways is to borrow belief from one area and superimpose it onto another. Meaning, if you're at a level 10 confidence in your career, why? Study it. What have you done there that has resulted? Because I guarantee you have done a series of things that have led you to believe in your competence, to believe in who you are in this role. If you're confident as a parent, what have you done? I can bet you have done something different than you've done in the area of your life that's at a 2. If in your career, you're constantly investing, you're growing, you're learning how to get better, you're reaching out to other people to be mentors to you, you're going the extra mile. Okay, great. Take that, put in your health. Where are the mentors here? Are you going the extra mile? Are you doing everything you can to improve this area? And you find it's like, be this person over here. And borrowing, because if you already have a high level of belief in one area, it proves that you know how to do it. You know how to invest in that area. So let's just borrow some of the strategies you've used over here, and let's just use them over here. And people are like,
Okay,
oh,
so let me
yeah.
give you a scenario, because I'm not sure if it's all the skills are transferable. For instance, if a
Yes.
woman, she is a go-getter and she is like the top of her game in her job, right?
Mhm.
She's got a really high position and she's got a lot of people working for her. But in her personal life, in her dating life, she may come across as someone who is overbearing, too masculine, and guys get intimidated by her. They find her a bit too much. And over time, she finds herself not being able to have successful dates. It doesn't go well. And she accumulates all those experiences that kind of prove that, she's not as competent in that area. So how would she be able to develop confidence in her personal life?
One great question. One, because, and I've had this like pretty often, especially with female executives, because it's a big challenge where you are crushing it in your career and doing really well, and then a man comes into that and they're like, whoa, I'm intimidated. And what it does is it causes this sort of reverse polarity where the woman is in her masculine and then it pushes the guy to be in his feminine, and then they wonder why it doesn't work. The first thing is to identify and define, who do you want to be in that area of your life? Of course, when you're in your career, if you're crushing it, if you're like, I get things done, I make things happen, that's a very different energy than what you need to bring to the relationship. So the challenge there is that you're bringing the exact same person over here to over there. We want to bring what you have done, in the sense that if in your career, what has worked really well is that you go above and beyond, you really show up. What does really showing up look like for your partner? So, for example, for me in my career, I speak to audiences from anywhere from a few hundred to a few thousand. It's high adrenaline, high dopamine, high impact. I need to own the room, especially in a room of 1,000 executives that are all Fortune 1,000 companies, and I'm 31. So I need to bring a certain energy there. That is not the energy I need to bring to my relationship with my wife. Very different. So I need to decide, who do I want to be in this context? That's the first thing. The second is to not jump to the conclusion too early, thinking that you intimidate the wrong partners. Because I have friends that are super successful in their career, female founders, entrepreneurs, execs, and they just didn't find the right person yet. So instead of sort of bending and molding who you think you need to be in that context, really decide, who would I like to be in a relationship? Do I want to be that bubbly, feminine, free-flowing version of myself? Great. Then I need to really step into that context in this arena. But if I'm like, I'm that high driver, I want someone that wants to get the most out of life, I want to crush it, I don't think we should change that. And I think you just find the right person that isn't going to be intimidated by that, that's even more masculine than you are. So it pushes you into your feminine and keeps you there, but it may take a little more trial and error. So I think the most important thing is finding and defining who you want to be on that field of play, who you want to be when you're at work, when you're a parent, when you're a partner, when you're a friend. Because a lot of times you got to bring a different version of yourself to each of those areas, but you can still borrow some things from the area that's worked really well to an area that needs improvement. That's a great
Excellent
point.
answer. So what I'm hearing is don't shrink. Like find
Yes,
people who would support you and encourage you to be yourself.
100%.
Find the right people, the right community, the right environments that can nurture you and that would applaud you for the traits that you really appreciate in yourself.
100%.
That's a very
100%.
empowering take.